Hello, BookTube. This and YouTube. This is Johnny down in the lower level making a video trying to visualize. Like I said, my eyes get blurry. So yeah, I'm looking into the viewfinder there and I'm making this video. I never know what day it is or time unless I have my clock. So today is August the 6th, 2024. It is 4:34 in the afternoon. Yeah, I'm down in the lower level. And I'm going to make a video, a used book haul video. The reason why I'm doing that is because I have a lot of used books, and this coming Friday, Lord willing, my wife and I were going to a used book sale, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 32 used books that have just been sitting down here that I have gotten at thrift stores, and I want to show them so after I make this video I can put them throughout the lower level in their appropriate place. So yeah, so today is August the 6th. It's a Tuesday, late afternoon, and I'm gonna make this quick and just go through the books and not really go much into them, except maybe I'll explain to you why I got them. This is Grace Pelly, The Collected Stories. I had this book and I dehauled it. And then I also picked up at a thrift store this week, during the last couple of weeks. I had her short stories. She was an activist, feminist writer, and she wrote short stories. So yeah, I had this, but then I dehauled it. But then I found also recently at some thrift store Grace Paley, Just As I Thought, which is collection of articles, reports, and talks representing about 30 years of political and literary activity, with a couple of occasional glances over my shoulder into disappearing family and childhood. So I have other books up there by her, and so I have that. Two things: Just As I Am, like an anthology of her writings by Grace Pelly, and then I found her collected stories. And then what else I have here? And then I picked up at some thrift store The Rise of a Public Woman, Woman's Power and Woman's Place in the United States, 1630 to 1970, by Glenda Matthews. Yeah, I collect books on women's rights, feminism, second wave feminism, the early 20th century women fighting for the right to vote, things like that. Women's history, you might call it. And then I picked up this novel, which I found I already had. As you know, I collect Europia editions, and I bought this at some thrift store, and I already had it. It's Ian Williams' reproduction, winner of the 2019 Scott Bank Gilder Prize, which I think is a Canadian literary prize. So I'll put this in my box to take to either Blue Stockings or some thrift store. Yeah, I collect Europia editions. I already had this 2-volume set in a really old paperback, but I found it at some thrift store, The History of Christianity by Gonzala. Mine was really old and beat up, and I put it in the box to either sell or take to a thrift store. History of Christianity, Early Church to the Dawn of the Reformation. This is a very classic series. I bought it when I was in Bible college or seminary. It's a 2-volume one. Reformation to the present day. Just an overview of the history of Christianity. It's a standard text. I recommend it. I used it in Bible college and seminary. I had this in paperback, and I found a hardback of it. I don't like to travel, but I collect travel books, and I had this one. I think it's up there somewhere. 80 Days, Nellie Bell, and Elizabeth Bistland's History-Making Race Around the World. They did that in an air balloon, if I remember correctly. No, it says here, Nellie Bly, and crusading young female reporter for Joseph Pulitzer's World newspaper, left New York by steamboat on a quest to break the record of the fastest trip around the world. Also departing from New York that day, heading in the opposite direction by train, was a young journalist from the Cosmopolitan magazine, Elizabeth Bisland. Each woman was determined to outdo Jules Verne's fictional hero, Phineas Frog, and circle the globe in less than 80 days. That's what it's about. So, not about balloons. And then I picked up, I didn't have this one, I don't think, Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman by Murakami, translated from the Japanese by Philip Gabriel and J. Rubin. I don't think I had this in my Murakami collection. If I do, I'll put it in my double box to sell or for in-store credit or take to a thrift store. It's in perfect condition, decal edge. So I got that. I found this book at a thrift store. I don't know, it was only 90 cents and it's really above my head, but it's called Constructing the Universe by David Lazer. And it's kind of a science book. And there's a lot of, it's on cosmetology. It's very, like it has all these kinds of arithmetic. I mean, I can't even count to 10. But I liked it because it just looked unusual. And it goes through the history of cosmetology, like Newton's theory and astronomical universe, Newton's Einstein's theory and the universe, special relativity. I can't pronounce these words. Anyway, just looked interesting. I might de-haul it. I don't know. It's only 90 cents. Imaginary Landscape, Making Worlds of Myth and Science by William Erwin Thomason. It just looked kind of interesting. I don't know. It just kind of looked kind of unusual. I like unusual books that you normally don't see. Like there's a chapter here that kind of grabbed me, A Cultural History of Consciousness, Intellectual Dominions and Cognitive Domains. Another book on cosmetology, Lost. I don't know, it just looked interesting, so I grabbed it. Only 90 cents. I like these Everyman's Libraries. This is 18th century plays, selected, introduced by John Hampton. Yeah, plays by Joseph Addison, John Gay. These are all people around the time of Samuel Johnson, Henry Filling, people like that. I just grabbed it because I collect these. I like these old Everyman Libraries edition. I like little summaries of world history. I collect them. This is by Frank Welsh, The History of the World from the Dawn of Humanity to the Modern Age. Yeah, I like these little summaries of world history, even though I'm sure it's written by, who is this guy? Frank Welsh was born in Washington County, Durham, educated at Magdalen College, Cambridge. He lives in France and England. His books include The Prophet of the State, Uneasy City, Building the Tryon, Great Southern Land, A History of Australia, Four Nations, A History of Hong Kong, The History of South Africa, things like that. So I picked that up. It's only like 70 cents. I have another novel by this guy, Mark Salzman. This is his novel, Lying Awake. This is a historical fiction that takes place in New York City, The World Tomorrow by Brendan Matthews. He was a former Fulbright scholar in Ireland, is the author of forthcoming story collection, This Is Not a Love Story. His fiction has appeared twice in the Best American Short Stories. Anyway, I like novels, historical novels that take place in New York City. That's why I got it. I already had this in my Christopher Hitchens collection, Love, Poverty, and Power, Journeys and Essays by Christopher. I already had this, so I'll put my extra copy in my double box to either take it at a thrift store or take it to Blue Stockings. This is a memoir of a woman who fled, a Russian aristocrat who fled Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution, went to Siberia, then she went to Germany, then she wound up in France, then she wound up living in Rhode Island. Her name was Maria Antonoff, Pilgrimage from Hell, Through Hell. I can't pronounce it, but that's what it's about. Yeah, this is 50 cents at Blue Stockings. That's why I bought it. I like stories about Russia, early Russian memoirs and biographies. This is, I also got for 50 cents at Blue Stockings. This is The Angry Decade by Leo Gurko. This is literary history, like from, I think from 1930 to 1940, that time period in American literary history. I have another book of his over here. He also wrote this book on Thomas Wolfe, Thomas Wolfe, Beyond the Romantic Hero. And he writes about American writers like Upton Sinclair is in here, John O'Hare, Malcolm Cowley, just that whole time period in American literary history, which as you know, I'm a student of American literary history, so that's why I got it. It was only 50 cents at Blue Stockings. They have sales for 50 cents, old books, and I look through them. This is Monsters of Templeton by Lauren Groff. I just showed you her book, Arcadia, and I collect her writings. I've showed you other books. She wrote Lauren Groff, Fates and Furies. And I showed you this one I couldn't find, but I bought a used copy, Arcadia by Lauren Groff. Yeah, I like good literary fiction. I like good writers. This is a Renaissance philosophy of man. These are selections from different Renaissance philosophers on their view of man during the Renaissance, edited by these different men. These are the men up here. These are the men up there that on their selected writings on man. I found this at a thrift store. I collect his novels. I didn't have this one. I have 3 other ones up there by him. Super Sad True Love Story by Gary Slantengart. I can't pronounce his name either. But I have other novels by him. They're up here. I have this novel by him, The Russian Debutante's Handbook. And he wrote Our Country Friends, a masterpiece, a novel by Gary Slantengart. I think he's Russian, but came to America. And then I have Abstiristan by Gary Slantengart. So yeah, I collect his writings, and I didn't. So now I have 4 of his novels. This is Japan, an interpretation by Lafcadio Hearn. I found this today at Gateway thrift store. This is published in 1913. He was an early American who went to Japan, wrote short stories about Japan, wrote books about Japan. He was a world traveler, very important early figure, like time of Mark Twain. Crusades and Crinolines. This is history of New York from pre-Civil War into the 1890s by Ishbel Ross. I collect books on New York City, the history of New York City. I have all kinds of, but that's why I picked it up. Peace to End All Peace, Fall of Ottoman Empire and the Creation of the Middle East, the Modern Middle East by David Fromkin. I have another book of his on the start of the First World War, 1914 by him. But I picked this up. I collect books on the Ottoman Empire, the Middle East in the 20th century, things like that, which is still in the news today. For the Soul of Mankind, United States, the Soviet Union, and the Cold War by Melvyn P. Leffler. I like American history, European history. I collect books on the Cold War. And I picked this up for, I think it was 90 cents. This is a small treatise on great virtues by Andre Comte-Sponville. It's on ethics, not Christian ethics, but modern ethics. It says here, a small treatise on the great virtues, the use of philosophy in everyday life. So I picked that up. Oh, so this is, I collect books on FDR, the Great Deal, that whole time period in American history. This is Scorpions, the Battles and Triumphs of FDR's Great Supreme Court Justices by Noel Feldman. Yeah, I have a whole shelf of books on FDR and Theodore Roosevelt. I like reading American history through biography. Then this is Tokyo Rising, the City Since the Great Earthquake by Edward Seidensticker. This book was in perfect condition, decal edge. It was a beautiful book, and I collect books on cities. Paris, New York, Istanbul, London, Berlin. And I do have some books, I think, on Tokyo, Japan, Japanese history. But it's a beautiful book, and it's only $1. And it looked interesting, and I like the cover. This Music and Silence. This is a novel by Anne Raymond. I never heard of her, but it was recommended by Joyce Carol Oates, which I respect. I have almost all of her novels, Joyce Carol Oates, so I picked that up. A Brief History of the Middle East by Christopher Catherwood. Another little overview of Middle Eastern history. The Early Arrival of Dreams, A Year in China by Rosemary Mahoney. This is a memoir. This is History After Elizabeth, The Rise of James of Scotland, and the Struggle for the Throne of England by Linda de Lisa. I like British history, and most of it I dehauled, but I liked it. It was only $1, so I bought it. The Noblest Triumph, Property and Prosperity Through the Ages by Tom Bethel. I already had this, so I put this in the box. It's a double. And then I buy the novels and writings, travel writings, novels of Paul Thorax, Under the Wave at Wami. It's a place in Hawaii. It's a novel. I didn't have this one in my collection, and I have at least 30 of his books, travel books, his novels, short stories. I recollect his writings. I didn't have this one. They wrote on it here, the person who had it, disappointing. So I don't know. I looked through it. I might read it. It looks like a light read. But I collect his writings. I think I made a video of him showing those a couple years ago. So those are the books. Yeah. So that's 32 books. I probably spent $32 for all those books. And so yeah, this Friday my wife and I were going to a big used book sale in South Haven. And then the next, not this week, but the next week we go to another used book sale at a library. So I wanted to show you all these books so I can put them either, if I have them, the doubles, I have a box in the back of my car, I'll put them in. And if I don't have them, then I'll put them in the lower level looks like a mess, but everything has its place. History, novels, art, travel, everything has its place. So if you have any questions about these books, I'll list them below. You can also read about them online. That's how I find out about books. I just go to Amazon or Goodreads, or I just read about them online, and that's what you can do here. So as far as I'm still reading The Glastonbury Romance by John Copper Powles. Still reading that. I have been reading short stories by Chekhov, Ward Number 6, and other stories. I read one of these stories the other night, On the Road. Really enjoyed it. So I read those. So now it's 4:59, early evening, August the 6th. I'll close. Do pray you're all doing well. And yeah, like I said, you got any questions about these books? Most, when I get a book, I usually have another book in that same category, or by author or subject matter, like FDR or Theodore Roosevelt. I collect books on them and their writings, and I collect books, travel books. I collect books by Murakami. I collect books on the Cold War. So there is a logic to what I look for when I go to thrift stores. I just don't buy things randomly. Now, some things might look really interesting that I don't normally would buy. Like, this is a small treatise on great virtues. That's a one-of-a-kind book, but I like reading about ethics, virtue, things like that. It just looked interesting. It was only like, 70, 80 cents. It's 5 o'clock. So I'll sign off to thank you for all your comments. Thank you for subscribing, and do pray that you're having a good reading week. Here in Michigan, it's been raining and humid and hot, but it's supposed to be better the rest of the week. So I'm thankful for that. So I'm rambling again. So I'll sign off, and once again, hope you're all doing well, and until next time, bye.